Welcome, this is your life now, a wasteland where we all take a vow.
Hi, my name is Mallory, and I've had multiple sclerosis for 20 years, and I've utilized a power wheelchair for 13 of those, and I share what my life experience is like navigating a chronic illness from a wheelchair. So, welcome. It's been a little bit. Let's talk about why, though. I think in the end, like, MS doesn't take a break when life happens. And so here we are 8 to 10 weeks later since the last time I felt comfortable being creative on this platform. And I don't know. I wanted to talk through that as usual. But additionally, celebrate my wins because there's lots of pros. And just in reflection, and what I'm finding over the last couple of weeks is you should be worried if there's a long pause. Not worried, just pray for me. If there's a long pause in my creativity here, it's typically because there's a lot going on. Whether that's MS related or life related or all of the above combined, and life is vomiting on me. That tends to be what happens, and I become a recluse. I don't know how to be vulnerable, but that's something I want to work on. That's what I wanted this platform to be, is being vulnerable and sharing the real raw experiences, so that there's just a clear understanding that nobody's in this alone, where somebody is experiencing what you're experiencing. And MS and any disability can be very isolating, especially when you think you're doing it by yourself. So anyways, there are reasons why I want to talk through the emotions and the mental health piece and everything else that comes with the package, right? So the best way I know how to do that, and the most comfortable way for me to deliver that, is to start with the wins over the last couple of weeks. So if I'm talking about wins, the first one would be the fact that I went gliding. And honestly, that whole experience kind of broke up a little bit of the collision of things that was coming at me at that point. But I live in the most amazing community, and that's the part I can never get over, when I get to have these cool experiences and also experience, just people being creative and loving on others. Like, my community is the most amazing at doing exactly that. So I live in an awesome location where I'm kind of on city-county line. And so for 16 years, I have been watching airplanes and gliders from my back patio. And it has been phenomenal. It's a wonderful hobby to watch others participate in. But they just opened a new clubhouse. And so I just kind of watched. and knew heat was a problem, and I wasn't going to get to kind of hang out and participate in the opening of that. But I did communicate that with a friend, just chit-chatting, because they got to go, they got to experience and actually participate. They actually were soaring in a glider. And so anyways, just chatting about their experience, it was kind of a, hey, are you interested? Do you want to go? I have a guy, and we could totally make this happen. And luckily, this friend is a great connector and a very big influence in our community. And so he was able to connect that together and get me set up to go gliding. And so if you don't know anything about that, you have to do that on a hot summer day, or a hot day, because your glider, or the glider, has no motor. There's no engine. There's nothing keeping it powered and up. It's actually the heat that you are, and I'm very, very poorly explaining this in very poor terms, but you pretty much search for the heat pockets to get lift in a cloud. So you kind of need the perfect weather, cloudy, partly cloudy is a better word to say that. Partly cloudy on a hot day is best to get lift. And so these gentlemen, one, are the most amazing people to watch fulfill their hobby, but also get excited to talk about their hobby. I did learn while at the clubhouse and preparing, like these gentlemen will get in their glider, they will get pulled up by a small like crop duster type plane. They release their tether, and these gentlemen will race all the way to Houston and back. Like Houston drive is like 3.5 to 4 hours from where we live, and so obviously that's far. So I prepared very, very carefully because I did this mid-June on a summer day. So obviously, in the state of Texas, it's in the 90s, especially 1 o'clock in the afternoon, mid 90s, and humidity is raging. And so I had to prepare like no other, which meant like from the things I drank, I hydrated really well, and drank things that I knew and know make me really cold internally and externally. So I drank those things, used cooling towels in preparation and while waiting on the runway to get into the canopy. But in the end, it was amazing. I did get you get pulled up, and then the tether is released, and then you glide at that point. And so the pilot was so amazing to, one, be so considerate of my heat intolerances, but additionally, like every like point that maybe I should be like concerned or have anxiety, or like when you get these lift and have to spin a little bit, like all of those moments, he was just very considerate of my limitations. And that's, again, a big part of why I was overwhelmed by the community aspect and the people involved, is everyone was considerate of my limitations. So, but in the end, I'm going to talk a little bit further about that because, there is heat, there is a mess. So there were other things to go along with the gliding experience. But additionally, like if I'm celebrating wins, right, we're going to start out with our wins. I did get a new PCP, and it's been a blessing. It's a whole lot of the last couple of weeks is overwhelmed by all the medical things, from pharmacy to medical to procedures to authorizations to third parties that manage these things. Like 2025 has been rough on the healthcare spectrum of things, and I know that's not just me. I talked to a lot of people that 2025 has hit really hard, and I have had a wonderful success with the route in which I went to acquire a PCP and so forth. So I want to talk about that today too, and just how much of a blessing that's been once I figured out, and what really led me to knowing that I needed to do that and address something from a different level. But additionally, third win here, we've got some movement going on with home accessibility. That's something that we just haven't felt comfortable at all about, from what to purchase to how to pay for it to like who can do it. There's been a lot, and so we've got some movement. Again, another community aspect where we've got a great group of friends that have decided, like, we're done with this, and we're gonna pull all of our community resources together, all of our knowledge, and we're gonna make something happen. And so I've had a few folks come into my house and just kind of look around at floor plans and what can and can't work, and what some things that like we could maybe do in a temporary basis to get us to a final resort. So anyways, we're very excited, cautiously excited, I think would be a better term. We're excited about the movement, and the resources that have come to us in this experience. And lastly, I finally, as of the end of July, have got my medication, my primary disease modifying therapy for my multiple sclerosis. It is finally approved and paid for. I want to get into the details on how that happened, because it wasn't easy, it wasn't simple, and nor was it like a stressless situation. Like, it's been 7 months of pins and needles and like, where am I going to get my medicine? How is it going to get paid for? How's it going to get here? And constant struggles with delays in administration because of delays in delivery, because of delays in funding. So it's just been a challenging year as it relates to getting my medication. Again, another 2025 nugget that I have never experienced in the 20 years of having MS. I've never come across such pushback as I have this year, with funding and so forth. Like, it's been a beating. And anyways, I want to celebrate that too, because I'm here. It's almost August and I finally can like get it delivered on a timely manner and paid for, and no out-of-pocket costs too. Just waiting on everything to kind of fall through. But anyways, we're celebrating wins right now. We'll talk through it and how we got there though. So I told you how well the gliding went. It was obviously a huge win, an experience for me, but I was extremely cautious and preparatory about the waiting, like to get me, like I had to wait outdoors in the heat, get in a parachute, get in the glider, and then you're in the air for 30 minutes to an hour, just depending on the heat and how much lift you can get. And so anyways, I did all the preparatory things leading up to, like, I ate the right things. Like, I pretty much ate similar to how I would when we were able to scuba dive, is just very light breakfast. Nothing that, just, you plan for what you want to upchuck pretty much, like, because there's a high risk for that, especially for me getting like motion sick. And so, anyways, I was just very preparatory in that manner of what I ate, drank, got rest. The thing I didn't consider or think about was the weight of the parachute, because you do have safety measures you have to meet, right? And so I did have to wear a parachute, and so the weight of the parachute and the fact that it's hot, so the heat again, which kind of planned for as much as I could, and so the weight of the parachute, the fact that it actually is hot once you get in it, and then sat in a bucket. They did leave the canopy open as long as possible, to the very last minute, like we were about to take off, and I didn't take a lot of video, I didn't take a lot of pictures. I took like the first few once we were like getting going, and then I started realizing motion sickness was going to come into play with this too. I was cautious about that as well, just because of how I knew and what I had read to prepare for the activity, was that, I could get motion sick because you have to, pretty much find a good fluffy cloud, find a heat pocket within that cloud, and once you hit that heat pocket, you start to spiral up. And honestly, like, I thought I was motion sick, or I got motion sick, because my pilot was amazing. It was like, there's a hawk over there, there's this city over there. And so I was just in awe and looking around at everything. Like, I just was so overwhelmed by the experience. And so I really thought I made myself motion sick. But in the end, I think heat was also, now that I'm getting into like the latter part of the summer and feeling what the heat intolerance does to my body and how it makes me feel, I'm thinking more so like both were into play, because of course once you get up in the air, there's nothing to protect you from the sun beaming down on you and right into your chest. And so anyways, I vomited. I luckily had a vomit bag. But it didn't, I don't know, it didn't really prohibit or limit my experience, because it was still cool, and honestly I would still go back and do it if I could figure out the heat part. But anyways, it's a super cool experience. Totally, like I said, would do it again if I could figure out the heat. And then additionally, like when we got landed, super smooth landing though, you'd think that thing would be like rickety and feel like horrible, because it feels like you're like in a cardboard box floating in the air. Like, it is very just gentle. And so you imagine a cardboard box hitting a runway. That's really what I was expecting, and it was smoother than a huge jet that we fly in like commercial airlines. And so smooth. So if you have the opportunity, totally give it a try, because it was super cool. But once we landed, and my husband was like assessing, like, okay, here's what we're going to do to get her out. And obviously time is of the essence, because heat again. I was sweaty. I thought it was honestly like drool or vomit on me. Like, it wasn't like explosive vomit or anything. Like, I was a lady. But I apparently can sweat when I need to. Like, I don't sweat ever, and it's a common statement of mine that I don't sweat, but apparently in an emergency situation, or maybe like a preventative measure, my body can do that. And so the whole chest area was really sweaty. And but I mean, the recovery, like, we immediately got me in a wheelchair and got me indoors, so that I could talk about it, of course, in the experience. But once we got home, like, I recovered quickly. Like, there wasn't, and I think that's because I hydrated quite a bit in preparation for it. But again, heat's a battle with MS. Heat, cold weather, period. We know that, right? But I was able to pull it off. Would love to have a better experience with like nixing the vomiting part, but anyways, it was super cool. And again, forever grateful for the opportunity. Very, very neat experience. So additionally, with any chronic illness or disability, and in my case, MS and multiple sclerosis, I juggle a lot of different physicians, a lot of different diagnoses, and a lot of different medications, and a lot of comfort procedures that are, all of these things are simply to keep me comfortable, because there's no cure for MS, and everything that's prescribed to us or is necessary is really just to keep me comfortable, to keep me relaxed, to keep me functional with the body that I'm in. And so on top of all the other things that we manage, we're also managing a lot of physicians. And so for me, 2025 has been the biggest blow as far as all the things working together and managing pharmacy and authorizations and insurance. And so part of that too was all my physicians. I have 8 physicians that I see regularly for varying things, and I'm not going to get into a lot of detail on that because that's like a whole episode in itself. But out of these physicians, really in 2025, again, like, it is like the whole industry has changed, like healthcare. Things that I used to like have my doctor's office managing, such as like, I'm going to prescribe you this medicine, it's better. Real life example actually from this year. This medication's better. You're on an old one that's probably giving you this side effect, this side effect, this side effect. You call your insurance, see if they'll cover it, and then shoot me a message. Let my office staff know if that's something you want us to prescribe. Never, ever, ever in my 20 years have I been responsible for that. I mean, I know I'm capable and I look like I can pull off a million different things, but when you multiply that times 20 or even 10, like, it's an overwhelming thing to be responsible for all of those things. And so anyways, I was feeling those burdens, but also feeling like my health care was also kind of stunted because I'm only one individual. I'd only get one response. And again, multiply this times, all these physicians, like, it's just a constant battle. And I was working myself in circles, but also feeling like my overall healthcare was slipping, meaning all 8 physicians have their own specialty, right? And that's their focus. That's what their expertise is. That's where they're gifted, and I appreciate that. But at the end of the day, when I have a GI doctor just focused on GI, let alone just one part of the GI part, not the entire function, like from swallowing to exiting, like, and then it just, I was drowning. And so the light at the end of the tunnel was really, really getting a good PCP. And that's where I went full circle. I'd been feeling like maybe I just wanted to separate from the industry and go like functional medicine. But then that made me really nervous because my background, my career background is in licensing physicians and healthcare in general. Like, I know how it works and how it operates and what it looks like on a good day and what it looks like on a bad day. Like, I know those things. And so I just was very hesitant, especially with my diagnosis and the amount of physicians I see and the things that I need testing wise. Like, I just was very concerned about completely stepping away and going to like a functional medicine type person for the big picture, right? And then on the latter half, I started thinking, well, I don't have a PCP. And so that piece was blaring in my head too, that, well, maybe just if you established a PCP. But then in my mind, I'm like, I'm still not a person. I'm still not the whole picture. It's still like, oh, well, you don't have a cold. What are you here for then? And so I just kept kind of spinning my wheels on it and listening to community members talk about their experiences, but also in my support group, just different avenues and how people were addressing the big picture, right? And so where I landed was a concierge physician, which through the organization I go to, they also call it like signature medicine, and I pay a flat fee and I get access to this doctor whenever I want. And he does have a clinic. He does have to maintain his license for the state of Texas and federally. But additionally, he's attached to a healthcare system, and so I still have access to those resources. And so in turn, like within my, and I really do, like I keep saying, like I can't find the right word, but I've really looked at it like I hired this PCP for me. My 90-minute like meet and greet with him, I treated like an interview. Like, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about this? I like holistic as much as possible. What's your belief system on this? Like I treated it like an interview. And in the end, like the physician's got a great name and great rapport throughout the community. And you can see that through all of his survey results and customer reviews. And so anyways, I was really very cautious about it, and took my husband because I was also very optimistic and wanted to be super excited about like some relief. And so he could kind of discern and help me come to the conclusion on whether this was right or wrong for us. And so we decided to take it for a spin, and it has been amazing so far. And so where I was finding that like I was having to drive in all these different locations to get all my lab work done, he was able to pull that into his clinic. He rewrote all the orders so that I could have them drawn all at once. He also was able to make sure it got billed to the appropriate third party so that my insurance covered it at like $5 co-insurance rather than like $90. And so anyways, that part's been good. And then, you know, the example I gave about the medication, and we'll call your doctor and or call your insurance and then get back with me and then we'll order it. Like he nixed that within that appointment. It was like, I ordered it. I submitted the prescription. I'll work on the authorization for you. I have time. I have a less patient load, which allows me to be there for you. And then also like some of the orders, like I had all these scattered lab orders everywhere that I was able like to pull all those in and share those with him electronically through the portal, My Chart. You know, it's like the social media of a chronically ill individual, but I was able to share that with him, and he rewrote them all so that it worked in my favor. But on top of that, like some of the things where I just kind of hit a wall, like I don't like I have a foot that's bothering me, and I don't want to address like the toe that needs to be operated on just because I'm scared, and that's in the back of my brain. I got so many other things on the front burners that it's just been pushed to the back burner, and I just can't find a physician that I'm comfortable with and so forth. And so things like that, like he just really helped me navigate things very, very well, and much more accordingly than the care I was receiving from every single one of these specialists. And so that has been a huge success. But I want to talk later, like separate episode about like why all the physicians, what do they all do? What do they all treat? And, how do they work together if they do? But anyways, we'll get into that eventually. And I don't know how many times I've said so far in this episode how painful insurance has been this year. I'll just give you two examples. So tomorrow I get to drive an hour from our home just because a service that could be performed 30 minutes from my home can be billed differently at the partnering location so that it would then be covered by my insurance. Same service, still a doctor providing it, still a doctor administering it, but it's the way it's billed. So we're tricking the system, which really never needed to be tricked in the end. Like if the insurance providers were really seeking to do what's best for the patient. But anyway, so that's one thing. But secondly, like my Kesimpta, that's, we're almost to August, and like I have done the legwork at this point. I did all the legwork. And which maybe that's the problem. I'm too knowledgeable, and I mean, I always knew healthcare workers were the worst patients, but I mean, I'm living it. And so, I mean, healthcare working past tense, but anyways, I just I have been seeking coverage every places to get my medication covered this year. And I've had all those things in my pocket. And so within the last couple of weeks, I called, I had a grant. I found the money. I was going to get it covered. I tried to use it with my insurance or with the pharmacy, and the pharmacy's like, yeah, no, you can't use that. You got to go back to the third party that administers your drug. They're the gatekeeper. And so I give these people a call, and she's like, oh yeah, I have to go back to your plan. We can't take these things. And I'm like, so you listen to me retrieve all this information from the vendor that distributes the drug manufacturer. You okayed me to apply for all of these resources and asked me to do all the legwork that I possibly could. And so now that I'm coming back to you and I've done everything you've asked, I've even got the money, I have everything. Like, I'm like handing them cash at this point, and they're telling me, no, we have to go through your plan. Your plan has to make the final approval. Meanwhile, like these phone calls aren't like a delicate exchange. Like, in most cases, I'm frustrated, and it takes everything possible to keep my composure. And a lot of the times, I interrupt the conversation, like hyperventilating, bawling, just to say, like, give me just a moment. Like, this is stupid. Let me get my composure so I can finish this conversation. Yeah, that's what this year has been. And so finally, end of last week, this third party contacts me, and says, well, I've talked to your plan and it's approved. And obviously, approved to me is like, what's approved? You're going to say it's approved, and then I'm going to call and be told that, oh, well, this is excluded and you still have an $8,000 copay. And so I, of course, had all these questions. Like, what are you, it can't be true. Like, y'all put me through the ringer this year. And so anyways, lo and behold, after all my pushback and questioning on like, so it's going to be $200, like, or it's going to be $8,000. In the end, I have no out of pocket. And, I'm just supposed to call a week before it's due, and they're going to automatically fill it. I don't know. We'll see. I'll let you know how the August shipment goes, but at the moment, I have my drug in the fridge now, so I can administer it on time when it's due. I'm just kind of like, I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel on this one, but I'm very optimistic. I'm hoping that it's truly, truly the case. So another win, though, like, I've been talking about insurance, and I forgot, like, I got my Medicare paperwork in the mail. Just like a deep breath moment, because that, you get approved for disability, and I did, and you have a 24-month waiting period before you're eligible for the, like, insurance coverage portion of it. And then on top of that, which nobody can explain to me why, I've even called Medicare directly. And I don't really understand why, but they make you wait another 5 months on top of that. But anyways, I finally got my Medicare paperwork in the mail. And so I will be active on 11/1. But this, it's a win for me, because it just gives me the authority to pick and choose what healthcare coverage I elect for myself, which is such a huge win, that I get to be in control for once of the circumstance. And anyway, so I'm excited about that. That'll be hopefully much better and make things so much more successful coming in the next year. But additionally, just with insurance in general, like, I'm navigating all these physicians, all these authorizations, but and the need for care and support through all of those things. But I don't know, it's the hottest time of year, and as the heat creeps in, And like I described, like we've got to drive an hour away for a particular treatment to give me some comfort this year. But muscle relaxers and over-the-counter things just aren't cutting it anymore for my heat issues. And so my heat issues include just very, very stiff and tight muscles. And so when I want to go to sleep, like I just ache, and it's just my muscles are just tight. In fact, like the gentleman that does my stretching, like that's a lot of just really what he's spent his time on the last couple of weeks is just working out the tight muscle, and getting them to relax in a sense, to the point like I haven't had any injuries in a long time, and that's because, you know, Brad's been my legs and transfer me and moving me, but that's even been challenging because I can't get my legs to relax. Like he'll go to stand me up and they just stay bent because that's the position they want to be in. And so the intense heat has kind of, and my body has outgrown the muscle relaxers and things like that to keep me comfortable. And so navigating that as well in tandem to all these other nuances, and that's the thing, like you don't get to pause any of this. Everything has to keep going, and the family dynamic of things has to keep going. We have a 13-year-old, almost 14, and the challenges of raising a teenager don't change. Like you still have to navigate those things. And in reflection, you know, just I was thinking this morning, like I'm so thankful that I'm home. You don't get to pause life's demands when there is a chronic illness at bay. And I don't know, at the end of the day, like my mentality is I feel like it becomes too much, and so I compartmentalize myself. In other words, I don't ask for things. I just don't. I try to avoid having any other needs outside of what is basic at this point, like getting me out of a chair, getting me into bed, and proper hygiene. Like I just, in the mix of the last couple weeks, like I lost myself is really the best way I can describe it. Like you give up your sense of self and sacrifice that to just stay afloat and stay alive. And that's just really where I found myself over the last couple weeks, and I hate it. And at the end of the day, like I hate the fact that it just exists in general. Like it's constant. It's just this constant mental battle of who I am and can I still keep her in the forefront, because of all the other things that don't pause, don't stop. But then again, it's a battle with yourself too, because how is this any different than life in general and what everybody else goes through? It's a strange mental place and space to be in as you battle a chronic illness. But additionally to that as well, like I'm young, I'm 37, and it just example from like just the mentality around going to the gym. You know, I want to go to the gym every day. I want to be active. I want to improve my body, not just for me, but for the loved ones around me that invest into my well-being. I think it's respectful for me to take care of myself as much as I can. But you know, we're taught like going to the gym and push yourself for endurance and stamina, and then there's this mental battle with yourself, well, with me in general, because the heat's fatiguing today, and there's this guilt because I'm not going to the gym, and it's this so bad, and almost as if I've done this to myself. That's really where I find myself, is I am the one that contributed to this unfortunate state of my body. Like, for example, like my like when somebody mentions like muscle atrophy or like progression, my first and immediate place my brain goes is, it's my fault. I didn't do enough. I didn't exercise enough. I prioritized my career. I prioritized rest. I didn't prioritize exercising or physical therapy. I didn't eat enough. There's just all these things like I take internally and process that, well, how would I have done this different? And but then you get into that mental loop too of, well, what if I did do this different? Like, would there have been a different outcome? Like, it's not good. It's not healthy. And the problem is too, is it's occurring, but you're just grasping. You're just trying so hard to get a grip on what is true, and eliminate the lies and focus on what you're grateful for and thankful for, which again is another reason why I go mute and can't really communicate, is because I'm so focused on grasping and trying to get back to a functional mental state that's healthy. And so it's just, there's this vicious cycle that happens. And I'm going to say with a disabled individual is that you kind of lose your mind in a sense. Maybe we'll just say lose self. But I'm going to go ahead and kind of close with this statement, and really where I think in reflection, if I go all the way back to like the one thing that prompted my mental mess through the last couple of weeks, and it was ultimately a physician questioning my memory of my diagnosis. But I found myself being questioned all the way back to my diagnosis at 17, just to assure the procedure that I'm having or needing to have done is addressing, all the elements of my stiff muscles. And needless to say, the physician, when I explained, my memory of everything, there was a lot of responses along the lines, and very comfortably and relaxed, might I add. She mentioned, well, that's just not possible. That can't be right. Like, that's not true. And so, maybe me. I went to the children's hospital. I didn't go. I electronically pulled and requested my medical record, which included my diagnosis, all my MRI and X-ray reports, my surgical events, and the treatment, my initial MS treatment. And so just troving through those 365 pages, I just went down this trail of emotions to ahas, because I did prove her wrong. But the statement was along the lines of, I was explaining to her, like, I had to have a major back surgery at 17 to remove a disc. My spinal cord was pinched, and I just worded it that way. That was, well, that's just not possible. Like, that can't happen. And it was something like that. And so anyways, I of course read my 365 page medical record, and Googled lots of big words. And it is true. Like, my spinal cord was compressed, and significantly and severely were topics or descriptive words that the radiology report included. But then also, like, so much time has passed that, when I met with the neurosurgeon there, like, I don't even remember what I told the man. I don't even remember, like, what my symptoms were. Like, I just remember discomfort and numbness and tingling. And I don't know, I was reading this medical record with the realization that I likely had MS for a year prior to any of this. And additionally, like, I could remember, like, everything, like mentality, what we were going through as a family, where we lived, what grade in school I was in, what I was managing, all at the same time. And I like to work, and so I had a lot of jobs simultaneously. It just, I don't know, I found myself so saddened for that girl. And I don't know, I felt her loneliness, me being her. I just felt 16-year-old me's loneliness and sadness. And anyways, that was, I think, an onset of, like, downhill, struggling to get back up over the last couple weeks. But it's the nature of the beast, I guess, like, explaining what really happened. But also, it's very eye-opening as it related to the back surgery too. Like, my spine vertebrae, I guess would be the right word, it was in shambles. Like, the physician that did my back surgery, he pretty much describes, like, he opened me up and discovered it was much more than he anticipated despite the multiple MRIs. So he opened me up more. And then the surgery pretty much describes, like, tweezers picking out small bone fragments from my spine. And so it just, I don't know. It's just a hard thing to read stuff like that, knowing that you went through it, but the emotion behind it all. So anyways, I think in many, 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 many cases, I don't know how many times I've said it when I go on these little mental pauses, is I'm noticing a trend where it almost always starts with a rough doctor's appointment, where I am simply trying to advocate for myself, get some relief from just subtle relief from anything that I'm experiencing, and almost having to jump through hoops to prove that it's true. And so it just, I don't know, I'm on the up and up now, and at the moment, but I just want to get better at it. I want to get better at not falling in that slump and not staying in that hole as long as I have over the last couple of weeks. Because it's not fun. Even knowing that you don't want to be in that hole, even, like, reaching. And I mean, I never stopped my quiet times. I never stopped my prayer time. It's just all the things at once, all the subtle reminders that this is it, and this is what I'm working through and with. And anyways, it's disability. So this is a mess for this quarter anyways, but thanks for joining.
Thanks for watching. If you're enjoying the content we're creating, please remember to subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and find us wherever you can get your podcasts.